For more on China's auto market, we're joined now by Lauren Fix. She's an automotive expert and editor-in-chief of Car Coach Reports. Lauren, pretty impressive stuff there. They're talking big luxury, big price tags, also EV. What are some of the trends you're seeing at the Shanghai Auto Show?
Well, obviously, electricity and electric charging cars have been what's taking the show by storm. And we're really glad, by the way, that the Shanghai show is happening because the rest of the world isn't having any auto shows. And it's very wise that they were able to showcase some of the new products we're going to see on a global basis. What we're really seeing is a lot of SUVs, which is something new to, like we always have here in the U.S., is becoming very global. You're noticing that from Volkswagen. They have the ID.4, the ID.6, and as well as through Volkswagen Group. You're also looking at the Audi with the A4 e-tron and the A6 e-tron. So you're seeing a lot of not just sedans and SUVs, but a lot of plug-in vehicles. And that is really the excitement. I know that there's also other products there and a lot of new technology, but the overarching is definitely electric vehicles.
It's so interesting because I remember that documentary years ago, Who Killed the Electric Car? It seems like the electric car is coming back with a lot of energy. Is China kind of setting the trend there, or is this just something we're going to see around the world, do you think?
Well, China wants to go 25% electric vehicles by 2025. I know you've discussed this in the past on your show, but I think it's important to note that there has been a 9% increase in demand for electricity, and that is equivalent. That in total is equivalent to like Texas and 4 other states. That's a lot of electricity demand, and can the grid support it? And this is something that China's working on from a different perspective. They're not just putting up nuclear power plants, but they're coming up with other ways to power these electric vehicles. And part of that could be blue gas, but the big problem still is how are we going to get enough electricity to support 25%? And other countries are having this problem as well, and that includes the United States.
And you know, China obviously taking climate change very seriously. They have this very ambitious carbon emission reduction plan. It's very, very aggressive, as you're pointing out. You're mentioning kind of the obstacles that China's facing, and I guess other countries are going to face it as well. Are people looking at solutions? I mean, what's going to be the magic bullet, so to speak?
Well, yeah, it's a tough question because you have to have what's called base load power. Without getting too technical, that would be coal and natural gas would support the bulk of the electricity grid. But if you want to do wind and solar, China's been able to get up to 11% from just wind and solar. That's not enough. So in order to have enough electricity without using fossil fuels and to become carbon zero, which would be almost impossible without using the only thing that is carbon zero, which is nuclear power. So I know that for years, including in the U.S., they were taking down nuclear power plants. China knows now that their only solution is to start building them, but they're also working on something called blue gas, which is hydrogen, which can be used to put into the charging base for electricity. That's still in the works. There's also other products coming out. And one thing that no one talks about is something called e-gas. It's being produced in combination with Porsche and Exxon, and the combination of the two, it's still in testing. We're not even close to testing it, actually putting it in vehicles. But it would go into combustion engines and have zero emissions. Now, that might be a solution to the problem as well. So it's good that everyone's thinking out of the box and putting their heads together.
Well, when we think of the pandemic, we think of lockdowns, we think of empty highways. I know driving into work, I've seen a lot of vacant roads around Washington, D.C., which it's not something we're used to. It seems to me like there's a lot of pent-up demand for people to travel, get out of their house, they're going crazy. But also a return to normal would be going out, buying a new car. So talk to me about the vehicle industry. Do you think that can actually play a role in China's economic recovery as well as other countries?
Well, you're right. People has a pent-up demand. Either their leases were due, or it's time to buy a new vehicle, or they want to go on a road trip. The problem is there's a shortage of vehicles, and it's not because the manufacturers aren't building them, which was the problem. Now we have 2 shortages. One is a semiconductor chip shortage, which we still don't have a resolution to, and it's a combination of different things, but the fact is they can't make them fast enough, and you can't sell a car that's missing a semiconductor chip. And the other thing is we now have a brand new rubber shortage, and that's going to impact tires and bushings and other things that have to do with building a car. So those 2 factors are really going to make a difference on getting product to market. We're not seeing a potential solution to that till possibly the fall. So if you're excited about a new vehicle, especially here in the U.S., you'll find that there's very little product, which means there's very little negotiation.